Excellent. All right, good evening. I'd like to call the Thursday, October 6, 2022 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I don't have any announcements this evening. Is there anyone here for anything that's not currently posted on our agenda? Yes, sir.
Is Oak Street polls by chance being discussed tonight? It was discussed at the last meeting. Thought they were bringing in their prints at this meeting.
They haven't sent the prints yet, so it's going to be on an upcoming agenda.
Okay, I'll keep my eyes open then.
You'll get a mailing for the...
We don't always do.
Okay.
So I was just checking.
Nope.
All right, thank you so much.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, so we'll go right into the first agenda item, which is appointment for the local cultural council and possible votes. And in our packet, the cultural council is in full support of the appointment of Rakesh. I'm going to mess up the last name.
Foster.
Come on up. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I didn't want to butcher your last name. I apologize. So you work for the Department of Veterans Affairs.
I do. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for working for them as a veteran myself.
All right.
I may need your services at some point.
Take care of
Do you aspire to be a detective? I see it's trench coat.
No, I've had that for years. So, yeah.
So what made you want to get involved with the Cultural Council?
I have a friend who's already on it, and I understand that there's some turnover in the Cultural Council, and the state of Massachusetts funds cultural councils across, if you have a town cultural council, but you have to have at least 5 members. I understand that, and then my understanding is that you choose to support arts and humanities in the town, and they have several events that get voted on a yearly grant basis, and they do lots of good events in partnership with the Douglas Farm and Orchard. I like that before even hearing about this, so I mean, if I could support one thing that is good for the town, but it sounds like they're doing a lot more than just that. And I understand in the 2 meetings that I sat back there to watch, and that there's COVID relief money that is in addition to the grants that people apply for, so we may be able to get that this year. So all sounds like good things for me to be a part of, and having just moved to the town during COVID, less than 2 years ago, an opportunity to contribute
Awesome.
Good to get some new blood.
I'm just happy to have people volunteer. I'm always pleased to see people want to step up and get involved in the community, so excellent.
Is this a term on this?
3 years.
Okay. I move the appointment for a term of 3 years.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Want a roll call on it?
No.
No.
We don't need it.
No, we don't have anybody remote, so. All right, thank you very much.
Wasn't too difficult.
That's pretty easy. Am I done? Or?
Yeah, you're all set.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Spread some culture.
Okay. We're a minute late, according to the posted time, but we have a 7:05 PM public hearing for a poll petition on Chestnut Street, impossible votes. So Massachusetts.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm the design engineer of National Grid Electric.
All right.
See you then.
So can we get a motion to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open the public hearing on the
Second.
poll petition.
Motion's made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so we have a poll petition opened up for, the number is 306-63487, install one SO pole on Chestnut Street, and 1 new SO pole 34-84, and anchor to replace existing tree guy.
Is it tree guy or tree guide?
It says
But it's
that.
tree guy.
Yeah, GUI.
Oh,
Guy wire.
interesting.
He's probably getting tired.
Yeah, you can only hold this up so long. All right, is there anybody here from the public or abutters that have any issues regarding the poll petition? No? And I'm assuming it's pretty much straightforward, nobody's written in, nobody has any objections, highway, everybody else is okay with it?
John Furno just asked that it be 3 feet from the edge of the pavement, usual.
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
It appears that the guide wire is going into past the property line. Is there an easement that's required for that or anything?
I'm sorry. Couldn't quite hear that gentleman. Can someone please speak closer to the mic?
Sure. It appears that the guide wire is going past the property line, and does it require any kind of easement?
Let me see, is that written up? Let's see, there is an easement, yes, on here. Was an easement sent to the homeowner at 42? I don't know if someone knows that here.
I own 42.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
But that explains why it is. Okay.
All right.
That's it. Yeah, so just explain.
Yeah, it looks like the easement would cover the anchor going into the property for 42, and then this petition would be for the pole to be the town safe.
Yep. Yeah, the existing guide wire is into a tree that's had its run. It's a rotted tree. So working with National Grid and Mike Frazier from National Grid, he came out and located a spot to put the pole and the easement in a good location that supports actually the pole across the street. So there's too much tension on the pole. That's why they need a guide wire and the easement to kind of leave the tension off so the pole doesn't bend into the street on the other side.
Yeah.
So I have no problems with it, and I've signed the easement. And it's been
That's
across.
fine. I didn't realize it was your property, so then
Yep,
just seen it crossing the property line, wanted to make sure it was addressed.
yep, no problem.
All right. Any other questions?
Move to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Move to approve the petition submitted to the board?
Second.
Excellent. So the motion was made by Hal, seconded by Mike. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right,
All right.
thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, moving right along. Review and discuss the HCA for Carbon Canopy Corporation and possible votes. We have the gentlemen from,
Hello.
how we doing?
Doing well, thanks. I'm attorney Blake Mensing. I had a great conversation back and forth with attorney Liz Leiden. My clients are good with the text as drafted, and we're just seeking the board's John Hancock on the agreement itself and the HCA certification form, which I had sent over, and that would allow them to then commence the state licensure process.
Okay. Well, I know we do need to make an amendment on this, and
Well, he's the attorney for it, and he agrees to it. Do we make an amendment to it?
well, we just need to strike that, because we can't really do the
Okay.
impact fees anymore.
So what we're talking about is the impact fee?
Yep.
So, so you're not in total agreement to it, so you want some amendments to it. So,
My stance on that is because the Cannabis Control Commission would have the power to review the text upon renewal, I wasn't really concerned about it. It's, the new law takes effect November 9th, and basically it's not a blank check anymore. It's, show impacts and then you can be reimbursed.
so it makes sense to take it out. You agree, Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to be able to show impact. I just,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ideally, again, this will be completely anonymous, right? It's business-to-business customers only, so there's not going to be people showing up. Even if they were to, they couldn't purchase anything on site. So yeah, I personally don't have one opinion one way or the other. Ideally, it would be out. The fact that it's in there It wouldn't make it any more enforceable than,
Right.
so I don't care if it's there. If it's easier to get it signed, that's our goal, just to get the state process started.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agreement to strike under community impact fee number 1 in this agreement. A, B, C, D, E, and H, and relabel F to be A, and relabel G to be B.
Okay.
You want to see what I was?
We're good with that. Yeah, no, I remember the substance, yeah.
So based off of those revisions, Matt, can we have a motion that we approve it based off of those revisions? So that way.
The amendments?
The amendments?
So the agreement is the main motion. When you amend it, it becomes as amended.
Yeah.
You can vote it.
Okay.
So we accept the amendments first, and then,
I think you can just say as amended, the agreement is
Okay.
amended.
You should vote the amendments just to be,
because I made a motion to amend it, so.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
I
And then,
make a motion to accept the agreement as amended,
Yeah.
the hosted community agreement between Carbon Canopy Corporation and the town of Douglas.
Second.
excellent. So the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Great, thank you.
Excellent.
That was painless.
Easy, appreciate it. And yeah, I'll just follow up just to get obviously we need both pieces of paper signed, but the one that we urgently need is the one that's certifying that the agreement exists. So I'll follow up tomorrow, and we'll be off to the races with the commission.
The,
Thank you.
one thing before he leaves.
Sure. And if you want our guys to sign since they're here, we can do that.
Where we're all here, should we be signing this last page to give to Lisa, so then when she amends it?
I have that.
Yeah, we can take care of
We
that.
can sign that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so we're talking about it now, that way we can sign it before we leave tonight, then.
There's not the
Yep.
mad scramble of, I need you guys to come in and sign
No, I have it
this.
already.
That'd be much appreciated.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, would you like them to sign since they're here?
You want mine?
I think you just said for your name on it.
You're gonna do 2 copies of it?
Is Michael Weldon? Yep.
Right here.
Let me go grab my one.
You know, the last entity in town was with CCC, Civilian Conservation
Good thing.
Corps.
well,
You know, the Roosevelt's New Deal thing, they had big operation here. Built a lot of the park.
Really?
Yeah. They have matches. Just the same initials as
I was
your
thinking, yeah, we
company.
got the CCC as well.
Yeah.
And there's the official CCC.
Yeah. The other one's not in existence anymore.
I gave you my signature page. Yours.
Yeah, I have them all here, ready
All
to go.
right. Okay.
Michael, sign. There.
And I don't know if Attorney
And that one
Lyden
as well.
gave you the HCA certification form. as
Yes,
well.
I have that as well.
Anymore?
Yep.
Marvelous.
You're right there.
Do we have an executive session tonight?
No, there's nothing on this.
Good.
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 I was like, good.
Well, we've done our work.
Matt.
Yes,
Yep,
you know.
you're all set.
thank you.
There's nothing else to get cleaned up.
Found
Yeah,
humor
I'll
in it.
take care of the rest tomorrow and be in touch.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're happy.
Thank you.
Happy.
That's all that matters.
We're gonna get back to our families and
Exactly.
dogs.
And maple walnut ice cream.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
You like that, eh?
Yep.
I don't like, I like
Yeah.
chocolate chip would be,
I like orange sherbet.
that's good.
All right, so the Highway Department on-call policy, final read and possible votes. Has there been any further amendments since the last read?
No,
It looks
it's not.
consistent with the last one.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody care to make a motion on this one?
A motion to approve the on-call policy, policy number HD001.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Review and ratify contract for Finance Director, Town Accountant Gene Levitt, and possible votes.
So all the provisions of the contract are consistent with what has been discussed with the Select Board in executive session. So there have been no additional changes after the last round of edits back and forth between the employee and me. So I have signed and request that you ratify the contract.
Make a motion to ratify the contract between the town municipal finance director and / town accountant, in town of Douglas.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this?
Couldn't do a 20-year contract, huh?
Nope, you're stuck at 5.
Oh,
State law, unless we go to town meeting if you want to. It's hard to do a salary table out 20 years.
okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Number 6, it's in red. Are we still going through this, or?
Well, it got added to it, so in your absence the other day, the Ryan Fatman had asked that you read the letter in your packet, the second page under that memo. And then I asked Lisa to just put the memo in to show us what the motion should read.
All right. So he's asked that I make the announcement first, and then we make votes?
Yeah, so what this is for, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify it, is because he only sent us this map, I went down and seen the assessors, and he clarified what the properties are. So these are the adjacent properties to up on Webster Road for, is it Dockstream?
Yep.
So they can enter into an agreement to put their well over there to get the proper separation, and this will just be added property, which is basically landlocked anyways, to the state forest. But it's critical, it's important that this is read publicly, so then DCR can move forward with their agreements.
Okay. So, certificate of announcement pursuant to 301 CMR 51082. I, Kevin D. Morris, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Douglas, Massachusetts, do hereby certify that on October 6, 2022, it was announced at a public meeting of the Selectmen that the Department of Conservation and Recreation may acquire an interest in 2 parcels of land located in Douglas, as shown on the attached locus map marked as Exhibit A, for conservation and/or recreational purposes. That was a mouthful. And then there's 2 votes that we'd be looking for.
Yep. The only thing we may want to acknowledge that it consists of the 22.74 acres in the top part of the paragraph. I just want to make sure that we have what Senator Fatman had requested.
Okay. So the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, acting through DCR and Recreation, has under consideration the acquisition of the fee or lesser interest in approximately 22.74 acres of forest land that lies contiguous to the Douglas State Forest in the town of Douglas. The current owner's use of the property is undeveloped forest land. A locus map marked Exhibit A shows the property in which we are interested.
nice that the state has been so good to us lately, so very cooperative.
It is nice to not have an adversarial position to
Yeah.
DCR for a change.
Well, you have not always been willing to sign off on these
Right.
things and
Yeah.
provide this announcement, which is a bit of a hocus pocus magic trick. The announcement is tantamount to acceptance of the
Acceptance.
fact of the transaction. So you've withheld some of these in the past
Yeah.
because of the conversation with pilot and other considerations. There's a bunch of things here. The most pressing is the need for basically a public drinking water supply to support the town's planned development of that one parcel that we sold at the bidding process to a marijuana, a cannabis establishment. So they need to put their well on that property. We had been approached several times by this family, because they were trying to sell these parcels to the state. And we were under that general policy guidance was we weren't going to play ball until we got some attention. So we've gotten an awful lot of attention, and we don't want to stand in the way. This will give the family the opportunity to sell the land, and the actual revenue to the town for the particular parcels is not much money now, so it's more or less a wash. But it will open the door to the finalization of the development that we anticipate will be substantial revenue improvement for the town. So this is not like other transactions where we may be taking hundreds of acres that's being fully taxed and putting it into the forest. This is a completely different situation. It's in 61. I believe they're keeping it in 61, even if they're not. We just don't tax it much. It's landlocked.
Yeah, the total value of the tax between the two properties is about $1,400 a year. And we're going
So
to
that'll-
realize much more revenue out of that. So if you would entertain it, I would like to move that the Board of Selectmen acknowledges the transaction of privately owned property to DCR for parcels 229-3 and 230-1.
Well, do we, if we're approving the approval or just acknowledging?
No, we're acknowledging the transaction. There's nothing to approve. We're just
Okay.
acknowledging it. So I'll read it again for you.
No, it's okay.
Okay, no,
So
that's
I'll
fine.
second the
Yep.
acknowledgement.
Yep.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the matter? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
And I also move to authorize the town administrator to sign any documentation related to the parcels 229-3 and 230-1.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Review and close warrant and possible votes.
See anything controversial there, huh?
You've been through a lot of this content before, so
No.
if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Looks pretty straightforward.
Make a motion to close the warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, that was easy. Number 8, discuss the act of payment for National Grid's easement release on town-owned property, parcel number 15-1443, located in Uxbridge, and possible votes. And this is CRG's gift to make the payment for the National Grid easement, right?
Right, so the request is that the select board consider accepting the gift. The donation to the town is for the sole purpose of paying National Grid for its property interest, its easement, which it is relinquishing so that development can go forward without any need for them. This is a historic easement. There used to actually be a substation in this part of town, and it went across all these vacant parcels. Whenever National Grid relinquishes these easements, there's a cost associated with that. It's basically an interest in property, and they want to be compensated for selling their interest back and withdrawing it. CRG is willing to pay that expense, so we just accept the gift, and then we will send the check from the town to National Grid.
With all that being said, I move to accept the gift of CIG's payment to National Grid for
They
the
don't need to say
easement.
anything, they're going to vote. Right?
There's no check coming to us. That's changed.
Well,
Very recently. CIG is sending a check directly to National Grid. We're just voting on the act of the payment, not the payment itself, according to Rich Bowen.
And that's what my motion was going to be.
I believe that
The
is
other
the
half.
correct, I believe that is the correct motion.
So you got the updated.
Yeah, it says
It's only two
CRG's payment.
sentences. Oh, one sentence, 2 lines.
Yeah, and I think that covers the change.
I think it covers it, and it covers it either way, whichever way it goes, whether it gets sent here and it gets mailed in, or it gets sent directly, we're accepting the gift.
Yeah,
However,
Doesn't really change.
however the vehicle happens.
Right.
So.
And the
I-
amount changed because there was an error.
We don't know what the
in the
amount is, we're
distance.
just accepting the gift, so.
Exactly.
If I can continue with this, I'll do it. I move to accept the gift of CIG's payment to National Grid for the easement release by National Grid on town-owned parcel number 15-143, located in Uxbridge.
Second.
so just 1443.
1443.
Oh, I didn't hear the second four, my
Yeah,
bad.
1443,
Thank you, sir.
no problem.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 I remember this now.
Yeah.
So your town council said there was no real difference between going through the steps.
Yeah, how payment, it's kind of a
I
generic
personally would, since the town is getting the interest, I would have rather have managed the transaction, but it's
Well-
not there, not there.
Rich's theory is we don't see an invoice.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So for fiscal control, we should always get that piece.
But if we see an invoice, we have to pay for it.
Right, but we're going to use the donation to do that. So there was
Correct.
no need to take a shortcut, but since it's been done, it's done.
It's already voted and
It's already been
done,
voted.
so.
But in the future, I won't put this on the docket for the board. It's going to have to go through each step.
All right. That was sort of easy.
Who put it on here now, you?
So, yeah, probably.
Okay, no, I'm just asking. Yeah.
But I think it's because, well, never mind.
Yep, that's all right.
All right. Now that we've gotten past that one.
Yep.
That was fun. Authorize the town administrator to sign for water sewer department lead service line inventory and replacement program and possible votes.
So the town is going to participate in a mandatory program. So we don't really have a choice about participating or not. We have to participate in a survey to determine if there are any lead service lines or other connections that contain lead components in the Douglas water system. They have to be identified, and a plan has to be in place by 2024 to resolve them, to get them taken out. For those who follow the news across the country, you've seen this problem has arisen in a number of places in the Midwest. I'm thinking it's Flint, Michigan,
Flint, yeah.
that has had the worst luck on the planet.
Camp Lejeune, too.
Yeah, and Camp Lejeune, which has all kinds of problems, but we won't get into those. We don't want any of those problems. But this is the type of program that the town administrator needs to be authorized to sign documents to commit the town to participate. You'll notice there is a warrant article for the town meeting in November that is going to address the same issue. And that would be Article 4. So the town will be asked to vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds $200,000 or some such sum for a lead service line inventory and replacement program. So the town's commitment to that program needs to be signed. I'd rather not have the whole thing grind to a every 2-week rotation. I don't want to ask you for a special meeting, so if you are comfortable with the program, I would ask that you allow me to sign on your behalf.
So there's no reimbursement of that 200, or?
I believe that's what does it say here? For the loan, if awarded, would be for planning activities. If said award is made, the applicant agrees to pay these costs, which constitute the required applicant's share of the project cost. That's what I think we're going to town meeting for the funds. So clearly, I wouldn't be signing unless
If
town
there's a
meeting approved the
fund.
funds.
Yeah.
But I think our time is of the essence, so if town meeting does approve the funding, I would
Have it in
need to
place.
be able to sign it right away.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town administrator to sign any and all documents related to the Water Sewer Department's lead service line inventory and replacement program.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Is there much of a lead problem that we know of?
I don't think so. I haven't been led to believe that there is a whole lot, but the technology was standard for a certain period of time. And Douglas did install water service lines during that time. Whether they used it or not is the purpose of this program.
And if it's there, then come up with remediation for it, obviously. Watch all the lead stuff, be the stuff that we just tore up for new water and sewer.
No, I doubt we have many lead service connections, but there's another component. I'm looking at Ken because he's a plumber. There's another piece that can be made
A lot
out
of times, the oakum between the valves was a lead component to it. There's multiple ways. The galvanized bolts, they used to use zinc-coated bolts. Zinc have lead in them. So there's multiple ways that it can infiltrate.
So,
Even your brass and your bronze is high in lead for your screws and your gate valves and your butterfly valves and all that. So they've all changed into plastics and such to get away from it.
so what period of time with those installations like
You had
that?
that all the way from the early 1900s all the way through probably until the 70s. They finally realized that they were leaching all this lead, and the lead became a problem. I mean, we have all the lead guidelines for paint and children and all that, but this is really to protect the people who've been dealing with it for years, that it now leaches out of their boats.
We thought the only bad thing from the 70s was disco. Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, even though the copper lines might have been replaced for the housing surface on the private side, the gooseneck connection between the main and the shutoff valve might be lead. And Bob does not know how many are in existence. When you dig it up, It's either yes or no.
Right.
Could be my house. It would explain a lot.
Just all the craziness.
All right, moving on. Let me see. Intermunicipal agreement with Blackstone for shared building inspection services and possible votes. So
So,
the,
Mr. Chairman, what I'm
more work for
seeking-
Ken.
Well, no, what I'm seeking from the board is your, first of all, I want to make you aware that this is a possibility. And then I would like some authorization or some guidance as to how far you want me to go in discussions. We presently have a number of regional agreements, one for animal control, another for veteran services. Blackstone is a partner with us in, I believe, both of those. And we also have, Blackstone has a little bit more advanced, if you want to call it that, or more thorough recycling program and, waste acceptance center, and Douglas residents may, for a fee, use it. So there's this pattern of cooperating, even though they're not in a budding town. The town administrator in Blackstone reached out to me and shared actually reached out to all the TAs in the area with a single email and said, having real difficulty recruiting, currently covering building commissioner services with some part-time, work from the commissioner in Bellingham, but that is not a forever sustainable arrangement. I mean, it'll work for now, but we need to, come on up, Ken. So we've been in that boat of trying to recruit, trying to find somebody who's qualified, and, it takes a long time to find that person. And in the meantime, people are doing projects, they're looking for inspections. And we sat down, Ken and I sat down with Dory Vecchio, who's the town administrator in Blackstone, and had a preliminary conversation. Just, is there even a there? And our conclusion from that was pretty much, the real estate listings that you see sometimes that say, make me move. If the deal is right, maybe I would consider it, and I think that's kind of where we are. We're not in a big rush to regionalize a service like this with something that's not in a budding community. But we have been thinking about trying to get a part-time inspector to alleviate some of the workload, because we're looking down the pipeline and seeing what's coming towards us and realizing, there's going to be an awful lot of work. So if another community is willing to share the cost of some of the added assistance, there might be a way that they get the coverage they need, and we're able to reprogram some of the commissioners' time to plan review and the overarching considerations of the code, and not just, inspecting decks and roofs and bottom inspections. Those things can be handled by a local inspector. Having said that, like I say, if it's not in the best interest of the town, we won't recommend it. If it doesn't look like a serviceable model, I think the big open question for us is zoning.
Yeah, who would be, how would we cover the zoning aspects of it? What is their zoning guidelines versus our zoning guidelines here? Also, just the basic coverage, how would it work for the coverage?
My question is, we have a sizable project coming down the pipe, and I'm assuming there's going to be more shortly behind it. Do we have the bandwidth? That's the biggest thing, is I don't want to...
As it stands now, I'm pretty well taxed out with what I've got going on. For me to pick up something else, it just isn't there. If there was
Something else being,
meaning
Blackstone?
Blackstone, or,
not our major projects.
not our major projects.
Yeah.
Right. But even with our major projects, with our day-to-day operations and our annual and inspections, and we have, liquor inspections, all these coming up that are all got to be figured into the mix. It's a daunting task. And then to look at another town, unless there was some way that there was, and again, it was only a preliminary talk, but some way to make sure that the coverage is there. There's no way I could do it as myself. I don't even know if one more local inspector would be able to cover the two towns, or if we need 1.5. I don't know what their infrastructure is like over there. I don't really know. I mean, they can say that we do 300 permits. Well, is it 300 40B permits or is it 300 sheds? I don't know what the volume on that part of it, and we've never gotten into that discussion.
Yeah, I think that's what we want to dig into. Their budget, if without any increase to their budget, I don't know that we would be able to make it all work.
Right.
So we would need them to add some to their budget. We would probably have to add a little bit to ours as well. So, but what I don't want to do is spend a lot of time really digging into
Right,
this
yeah.
if the select board isn't really going to be.
Yeah.
The only upside, the way I see it, is freeing up you to do more things that are important to the town. If the second person could take care of the more routine things.
I think
But it's not going to free him up to do more things because the time that he is going to get taken away. So if you humor me for a couple minutes, prior to this conversation, he's come before the town looking for additional help. So now we want to add the burden of another town, which happens to be 17 minutes from this doorstep to the town hall doorstep on St. Paul Street. So it's 45 minutes, say, round trip. For him to go there and focus on, is going to get very confusing for anybody. I don't care who it is. We have our own complex zoning codes that usually it's a mental exercise just to try to wrap your head around some of the things. And then you're going to go to the town of Blackstone, which I happen to be very familiar with. For one thing, in this town, if it's a municipal project, we're exempt from zoning. They don't have that in their code book. So this is something that he has to make sure he's 100% sharp on all the time, which will be a challenge from the zoning standpoint. But it comes down to, he's already expressed that he's challenged in his department with the workload that he has now. And you're going to bring in a local inspector or whatever to try to take up the slack that he has. He's got to be as aggressive as Ken is being in the job. Otherwise, it may take two people to do it. I don't know how he's doing it, but I'm just using an example. I'm sure he's not slacking off too much. He's way too busy because the phone be ringing off the hook in our office. And I don't see that happening. I don't hear about it anyways. So I think it'd be a challenge for us to take on another town like that. I did dig into Blackstone a little bit, and if I understand it correctly, they're offering a commissioner's position, his position, at around $50,000 with no benefits. While the town of Medway is offering the same position with benefits for $115,000. So where are you going to apply? That's their challenge. That's the same challenge that we had back when Matt came on and we were at 19 hours a week and we had $30,000 budget. You're not going to get anybody. We started off with Mark, and then we graduated up to a full-time position, and here we are today with Ken. Blackstone needs to learn that. They need to figure it out. They need to pony up to the bar and pay the tab. Otherwise, they're not going to get anybody. There's too many towns out there offering more money. Just the surrounding towns, they're probably at about 60%, 55 to 60% of what their bordering towns are.
Yeah, I think
They're very close. I think Millville's a part-time inspection, and
Yeah, it
it's
is.
like 30 and change. And they have 2,600 people with no commercial.
Like,
Maybe one.
in some aspects, like regionalized municipal people, like the ACO, makes sense. I mean, there's not the demand on them. Like, yeah, people lose their pets and things like that, or the rabid raccoon or whatever it is that shows up that the ACO would handle. With the size and scale of the amount of business that we have coming into Douglas right now and the projects that Ken has in front of him, plus the daunting task of some of the enforcements that he's trying to keep up with that are through town, I think at this time it just,
Low priority.
yeah, it doesn't help us. Adding people to his department makes perfect sense. in my head.
Yeah, we want to see what we need in Douglas with these projects for our own needs first, and then see potentially down the line.
It's like the opportunity for regionalization may show up a year or two from now if our building department slows down, as opposed to laying a resource off.
Right.
Share the burden at that point.
The credit's not given to the typical building commissioner, inspector, or whatever. It's a complicated job. It's a complicated in the fact that the decisions the person makes, he or she, has to protect the town and not put him in a position where we're getting sued every other day. And that's not an easy juggling act with some of the complaints and nonsense that comes in across his table, I'm sure. And that would be my concern. And logistically, it's just too far away for it to happen. There's so many questions that come after the fact. We're purchasing a vehicle for him. He needs it. He's on call 24/7, so now that's in Blackstone because he needs it, right? So the expense is going to get quite big. Maybe he can consult him a little bit to help him between him and his staff. He's got the online permitting stuff up and running pretty well, so there is no learning curve for them. Maybe we can, if they have time to do it, give them some guidance on how to get that up and running. But from an inspection standpoint, he's going to be challenged to do that effectively for us. I'm not really overly concerned about them. What are we losing by helping is what I'm concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked the idea of regionalization. It's just, it doesn't make sense in this case, at least not today.
We don't really know what the future demand's going to be too, so we can't commit to.
Well, there's a couple different things so I think of everything from a business standpoint. So right now, we're hot and heavy. We bring on somebody. Economy changes, and now it's not so hot and heavy anymore. What do we do with this person? We're going to lay them off. We try to repurpose them somewhere else, or her somewhere else. I don't know. I'm a little concerned on that front. So.
Yeah, I mean, my thought, like it's earlier said, things will eventually slow down. It's not always.
It's going to change. It changes. It's like, so.
Yeah.
10-year cycle.
And if you get.
Yeah, but it changes. So if you stop building, you start fixing. And then when you start building again, you stop fixing. So it just.
So I mean, right now, I haven't gotten as many new house permits in, but the remodeling is more than taking its place.
That's what happens.
So.
But my thought process is if it slowed down with the workload in the office, if we did have a second, or somebody helping Ken with that, as opposed to, that's when you look at regionalization, saying, hey, we've slowed down, we're looking at maybe having to cut this person, maybe it makes sense. That as opposed to laying somebody off, we look at a temporary regional position and split the cost.
And we're still in the process of getting the other boards and commissions on the online permitting, other than because that was our goal long-term, so we got the building up. Are we doing the other zoning, planning?
The girls are working on, Jackie and Jen are working on the zoning and the planning. Zoning is online. Planning, it's a little more complicated with the applications. We're going to take some time, the first part of the week, go through the zoning permit packet that's there, see what we can take and adjust to get the number down. I think there was five slots available for that online permitting for that. With the zoning, they've only used one. So we have potentially 4 more slots to get whatever we need in planning into there. So I'm hoping.
Yeah, we had started off with 14 forms, but that was way too many.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so, I mean, as long as, like, basically subdivision, A&R, I mean, the most common transaction.
Like I keep emphasizing them, you want everybody and anybody to be able to fill out these forms online.
Yeah, and that's part of my concern. So if we take them out even 20% of the time, we're losing that 20% of traction. It appears that they have a good system going, so.
I would like to think by the end of October, I'm hoping to have the planning on also. It's the goal, barring any unforeseens.
think I told.
Right, well, I think that's sufficient.
No, it was, no, but it was good to entertain it. There's nothing wrong with it.
We just slapped the heck out of that one, didn't we?
Too many.
No, but it's just,
My
it's
purpose of
important
my
that we
putting it on
do
the
it.
agenda
so.
was to have the conversation,
Right.
right? I don't make the decision.
We get too
Right.
many balls up in the air right now to make a decision on this, but we'll, keep it in mind at
Right.
some point. potentially.
Yeah.
I think it's really in the last couple of months, it's been hard getting a building commissioner now for a few years. In the last couple of months, it's really accelerated. And I think it's because you've said to me, the retirements.
So
There's
the
just so many
state's supposed to
people.
have approximately 867 commissioners. We're at somewhere around 600, if that. And, they're dropping. As the codes keep changing, getting more intense with the energy codes and the zero, net carbons and everything else going on, the guys are just
Well,
walking
the
away.
problem is that
It's
people
gonna
aren't
be free.
transitioning out. So at my age and my experience, I would normally transition out, but I'm way too busy it would make no sense for me to do that.
Well, they make more money out in the open market.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would make no sense for me to do it at this stage.
You're fighting against a union guy that's making $95 an hour. You ain't gonna get that guy to go into be a building inspector between 25 to 32 bucks an hour. He's just not gonna do it. Yeah, can't blame him.
Bad
Big cut.
economics.
Yeah. So it's, if the economy changed, if more kids start going back to trade school, if they pick up, I talked to probably 7 out of 10 people that are in the 60s in the trades. There's no kids out there in the trades anymore.
No, they're doing video game design.
I think as a town ourselves, we're still in the
Yeah.
growing stage. We just haven't reached a point where we can venture out too far.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Ken.
thanks, Ken.
No problem.
All right.
Back to this thing again.
Well, I don't know that we've moved the ball much on ARPA, so
How are we making out with that new consultant? Have you engaged
we've
with them?
signed the letter of engagement with Clifton Larson Allen, CLA. Our initial meeting was very productive, and I think we're just, at this point, looking to take all of the proposals, and this is what I need to do, take all these proposals, I see this as a comprehensive list, and get a little bit more, send the backup, the project request forms to CLA for their opinion. What I liked about them during their interview, they're on the statewide contract list, so we don't need to bid out for their service, is that they understood that local select boards need good advice, not wishy-washy, well, you can do that if you want, right? They're going to be very clear about whether it's ARPA eligible and what they identify as the pros and cons of each project. The vast majority of the proposals are eligible because when the federal government recharacterized eligible activities, and then all towns of our size, we got less than $10 million, so we are allowed to consider the whole award as quote-unquote revenue replacement. It's revenue as if the town had raised it. So it is allowed to be used for any general government purpose. They frown on, big capital projects, buildings that you might have gone out to borrow. You probably didn't get enough money to do that anyway from ARPA. They're looking for, they still strongly encourage projects that are designed towards community resilience, things that make us more resistant to the types of considerations that we all encountered during the pandemic. So I'm encouraged. I hope that they work out. We're going to put them through their paces in the next week or two and try to resolve as much as we can and get a report from them. I think we sent them the essential worker pay proposal.
That's going to be sent. Yeah. Jean also has that to review as well.
Yeah.
So just, it makes sense to table the ARPA discussion until we hear back from the new consultants.
I had one question, and the water and sewer infrastructure, 200,000 to 7.5 million. How important is that money for our, I thought we covered all of the,
These are just all the requests that came in, is what that list
yeah,
is.
so is that no longer relevant potentially, or?
No, they're all still on the list because they're still
Right,
relevant.
no, but I mean, I thought we, between the federal and state funds, that we have enough, and the developers' funds.
Oh, no.
Oh, no,
this is
these are
project.
separate from
That's
that.
outside of the,
Outside of it, okay.
Yeah,
this is
the
just general
200
expand,
the
okay.
200,000 was
All right.
for some relining,
Okay,
and the 7.5
All right.
million was going all the way up to the highway bond.
sorry, yeah,
Yep.
okay. So separate.
Yeah, totally separate, yes.
Yeah, we can table it.
yeah, we'll table it until we get some kind of an opinion
Feedback
back.
from them.
Yep,
Yeah.
we'd like to have some feedback.
But
with-
given the urgency with some of this, I will hope that in 2 weeks' time, we'll be able to make progress.
My concern, I'd like to, because my concern is the ARPA funding doing the same thing that the CARES Act funding did. They give you an original deadline as to how long you have it, then they go, no, and we're taking it. So, I mean, I'd like us to at least have some plans or get some projects checked off based off of their guidance, like sooner rather than later.
Maybe prioritizing.
Well, yeah,
well,
well,
after
actually,
they
what I had
review.
asked the administrator to do was to back up from the December 31st, 2024 date, because he has to, for procurement and be able to pay out, it has to be expended by that point. So if you can back up that date, so we know that we have to have things in place by this certain time, because you keep thinking of December of '24 is like it's forever. No, it's not. Not when you start all the stuff, hoops he's got to jump through
Oh, yeah.
to make something happen.
Yeah, the
You
timeline
may
gets-
only have 3 months.
The timeline gets narrow and the federal government is fickle, to say the very least. All right, so approved minutes and possible votes. We have minutes for September 6th, open meeting, and then executive session for the 6th, and executive session for the 20th.
Make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of Tuesday, September 6th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Retain them?
Yeah, retain them.
Yeah.
You want to do it? Make a motion to approve and retain the executive session minutes of September 6th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I have a question on, actually, never mind, scratch that.
On the last one we just did, or no?
No, no, no.
No, the
It's
next
another one, yeah.
Yeah, all right.
But scratch it. I answered my own question.
Good.
I'm good like that.
Self-learning.
I am. I talking to myself,
I
answering
broke a piece of
myself.
that lead-free.
Could have been.
Make a motion to approve and retain the executive session minutes of September 20th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's up to the
Your
administrator.
report, Mr. Administrator.
Keep it as brief as I can, Mr. Chairman. On Wednesday, October 12th, at 11:30 a.m. at the Adult Social Center, the town, along with our energy aggregator, will have a meeting for the benefit of really anybody who wants to attend, but especially those seniors who may be living home alone and may not be aware exactly of whether they're participating in the energy aggregation program or not, the electricity aggregation program. We know now from the tariff filings that the cost per kilowatt hour for electricity generation could be as high as 34 cents a kilowatt hour, which is a very large increase. The town participates in the aggregation program. We went out to bid with many other towns for residential customers who are automatically in the program, but at some point they could have chosen to opt out. Some people, just like things to stay the same, they don't want change, so they may have opted out to stick with National Grid or for whatever reason. And now they're seeing that they might need to opt in to save a lot of money. So we're at 10.7 cents. That's a really big gap. And with the cost of heating fuel going up as high as it could potentially go up, we're just very concerned for people who may be living on a fixed income at home. So we're providing this session for information. So that is 11:30 a.m. on October 12th at the Social Center.
To answer any questions that anybody would have.
Yeah, so the Good Energy will be there
Yep.
to answer all the questions.
So automatically, everybody was in unless they opted out, right?
Correct.
So you may want to pick up some people that opted out, say you should be back. And they
Or
can
people
go
who are
back
new to
in.
town, who may have moved here from another
Yeah.
place.
By default, they'd be with Grid.
Right,
Yeah. Okay,
well, would they?
that's a good question.
A new customer.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they would. Not- Other than that, there's solar, but
Because I don't-
everybody's grid.
I don't think that they could assume that new business. Like, they could opt in people that were current residents, but anybody new that was coming in, I thought deferred to Grid.
Yeah, I wasn't here when it was set up, so I'm not,
October 12th. You can answer all these questions.
right. But the most important thing for people, when you look at your bill, you have different pieces.
Yeah.
You have energy generation, you have transmission, which is a cost of the substations, everything else that you're paying for, and distribution, which is poles and wires to your meter. And so typically, distribution and transmission is about the same as your electric generation piece. So now, if your generation piece is going to almost triple, that's a big part of your bill going forward. So there are options for people to utilize to save that. The town has continued to be involved in a conversation with the Department of Public Utilities regarding the extension of natural gas into the community. And the conversations are ongoing. We'll be meeting again next week, or shortly after next week. The 19th, is that the tentative date with the AGO?
Wednesday, 19th, we have 11 o'clock.
So we may be going back to the Attorney General's office for one last conversation. By way of update, all of the interveners have been ruled out of order, so right now the record is being built only upon the Attorney General's input and the Town of Douglas's input. So that, and obviously Eversource.
What do you prognosticate for the Attorney General's input?
I think it's still in flux. I don't know that they've really made up their mind. They've asked a lot of questions. Many of them are standard questions that are asked of Eversource for any extension of service. A lot of their questions are directed towards the town's future plans. And we haven't pulled any punches. We've said that we have other potential industrial development further to the south in town, but again, still on the far eastern side of the town. But those are quite a few years away, and we don't want to have that theoretical conversation. We don't even know what's going to come around the corner, so we don't want to prognosticate that far into the future. So many times our answers are somewhat non-committal. We don't have a specific housing proposal. We don't have specific industrial proposals for Davis Street or for Gilboa Street. So we're not going to commit to those things, even though we would entertain them if we had to. There was an extensive briefing today from Tradition Energy, which is our energy advisor, regarding this winter. And it's a real big mess. Here in New England, I think people don't understand that, because it's hard to follow. When we get low on gas in the Northeast Corridor, we don't pipe it in from other locations. That isn't how we make up for gas demand. Because of any number of US laws, what we have to do here in ISO New England is purchase liquid natural gas from Europe and from Africa. So we pay the LNG price for any excess gas demand during the winter, and it has to come back across the ocean to us. It sounds absurd because it is absurd, but that is how the ISO New England feeds its energy needs. So there was one of the lighter moments in the briefing was NOAA is predicting an above average winter. The temperatures would be very high. The Farmer's Almanac is saying it's going to be typically chilly and icy and slushy. Shivery is what they said. And then there's a commercial outfit, I don't know if it's called AccuWeather or AccuPoint Weather, but it's basically a commercial enterprise in meteorology, and they're saying we're going to have a terribly cold winter. The takeaway from this is that nobody has any idea how bad the winter's going to be. We just know that gas is in extremely short supply, especially in Europe. So even those countries that have completely committed to renewable energy, like Denmark, announced this week the Danes are actually refiring their coal-fired plants. And the cost of coal per ton is through the roof because gas is pushing the cost of coal up. So it's just, if you believe in prayer, start praying for a warm winter because it will come in handy. That's been the lion's share of our activity. So there's, as you know, a lot of work went into the testimony, and we're settling down from that run-up and use of our energy.
When would we likely get a decision?
Well, we're thinking that we should hear by mid-November. We could hear sooner than that. The Attorney General's comment period ends October 25th.
25th. And Eversource requested a November 15th as a end date.
They asked a 2-month review, so that's where we stand with it.
We have all these gas pipelines feeding into the area, but none of that gas is going to this area? You say it's all coming?
No, it's all being used.
Okay.
So in the wintertime, what happens is there's a priority stacking, and home heating needs are taken care of first. So the power producers buy whatever is left over, and if it's not enough, they have to find gas from other sources to fire their plants.
Okay, but it's only the excess that they're looking, okay, all right.
But the home heating can take up a huge
80
amount.
to 90% of it.
Right. So that's why our power bills are looking so high. I think that's all I'm going to go into, Mr. Chairman. I would say, because I've spent like 12 hours in the past 2 days being a local government geek. Actually, no, before I get to that, I did want to, today we learned that our retiree health benefit per member per month premium is a rate pass, so there is a 0% increase. And the rate cap will be effective through 25. So we will not see that premium go up by any more than $10 per member per month each year through 2025.
Really saved a lot of money.
That's good news.
So that's good news. I mean, we have more and more people in the retiree benefit program, and that was good news for us. So getting back to being a geek, as you know, I worked in the city of Woonsocket for 4 years, but most of my life has been tied up with the city in one way or another, just because of things that I've cared about, work that I've done for U.S. Senator and governors, often involved the city, and I grew up with friends and church, fellow churchgoers in the city, and really kind of feel in my heart for the place. And last night, the city council voted to remove the mayor from her office. And I'm bringing it up only because I think it is a demonstration of just how fragile local government is, and the relationship between legislative branch, executive branch, and the different flavors of executive branch. Rhode Island is very different from Massachusetts, and even within Rhode Island, Woonsocket is unique. They have a city charter that lays things out. But for most of the time, when people are on the same team, pulling in the same direction, whatever vagueness there is in the language of the charter is something you work through, and you just find a way to keep everybody happy about checks and balances and about who calls the shots. But when politics or personalities get in the way, these things can really turn into a train wreck. So for the last 12 hours, we've seen just how bad a train wreck it can become, to the point where nobody really even knows whose job it is to negotiate a collective bargaining agreement in a city that's got almost all of its employees are unionized in one form or another. So it was very instructive to watch people try to sort these problems out in the context of a removal of someone from office. And so I would never wish that upon anyone else, but sometimes when I talk about Rhode Island being a fiasco, you can watch that and see just exactly what I'm talking about. But it just puts a premium on and an understanding of the value of, for so long as back as I can see, whether it was during Mike Kozinski's time or my time, the town of Douglas is always, the elected officials and appointed officials have always managed to pull together to come up with a plan and realize that they're all working towards a common end. And that is something you should never lose, because you really can't get it back once you lose it. It's not about the size of the community. I've seen real big communities where people still do get along and can figure things out. So it's a shame what's happened. Woonsocket really isn't that far away. If Blackstone's 17 minutes, Woonsocket's 18 minutes away. And what goes on in a population of 50,000 people does affect everyone within reasonable earshot. So it's a shame, and I feel bad for all involved, because I think, frankly, they all look pretty bad.
And it's going to be a short-lived removal, isn't it?
Yeah, she's the only one on the ballot, so she'll be reelected in November, and she'll come back into office in the middle of December.
The only thing she won't have is marinara sauce, like old Buddy
She doesn't.
Cianci.
Yeah, I mean, and I would never compare Lisa to Buddy Cianci.
No, I'm not comparing.
That's not fair. I think, I looked at a public servant who's really
Right.
trying hard to do her job.
Yeah.
And it's,
No, I've known Lisa for a very long time.
and it's
She is-
too bad to see her being put through the stress. And at times, though, it was pretty clear that she'd made some mistakes. So, but I digress. We're here for Douglas. I only bring it up because I think we have a tremendous asset here that people work together well. And so we'll do everything we can to keep that going.
But if you can fight your way through the 3 different nights of 4 or 5 hour meetings, it is interesting. You get a lot of good information out of it, just watching the transactions that went back and forth.
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
I think the Sistine Chapel is done.
Good. Who was that,
I'm
18?
declaring victory. I don't
How many
care
years?
whether it's really done or not. I'm just done.
No,
I see
is that
nothing
an-
painted on the ceiling, though.
I'm not doing the ceiling.
Is that an
15 years?
official determination by the architect of the Capitol?
The architect of the Capitol has signed off.
All right. Are there any open session topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting?
One.
Of course there is.
I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow is National Smile Day. Huh? World, national, whatever. You want to
It
get a red,
keeps getting bigger.
you want to get a.
He downscaled.
You want to get a red pen out and correct me?
Yeah,
Thank you for red inking him, Lisa.
Kevin enjoyed that, Lisa.
I did. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing as none, all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.